is there a line between political endorsements and campaigns and the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022? Let's bring in the Executive Director of Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa to help us answer that question, Nwagwu. Thank you so much for being on Newsnight.
Thank you.
Well, that's a critical question, but I'd like to ask you, talk, they say, is cheap. We see all this early endorsement, particularly from the president's governing party. Should we really worry about them? After all, the president does have a first right of refusal when it comes to the time for 2027 election. So is it much ado about nothing?
Well, I don't know who is worried. I think, first and foremost, we have a very tricky situation in our hand. Tricky because the law itself is a bit weak in terms of even definitions. And so we are left with the dilemma of you know, what is campaign? What constitutes campaign? It says campaigns will begin 150 days to the elections. But who is the one to campaign? A candidate. So there is no candidate yet.
So technically, there are no campaigns. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, technically, there is no candidate. What you have will be, between now and then, it will be aspirants, people who can aspire. And can we criminalize aspiration? No, we can't say people cannot aspire. People cannot say they want to be. But campaigns formally, according to the Electoral Act, will begin. So that's why I said it's a dilemma of interpretation. But what plays really, because it is the challenge of impunity, of a ruling class that does not like to obey even simple ethical issues that it has to embrace. And it has nothing to do with just the dominant party. If you are talking coalition, you are raising a coalition to unseat, in your own words, to unseat the dominant party. That itself is an activity that is preceding, you know, elections, which also is part of
so what cross board.
So it's a collective impunity that we haven't found a way around it really.
So you agree with those who say that this talk about coalition is what may have triggered this what seems like a panic mode within the governing APC, that everybody is, you know, rallying around the 22 governors of the APC, the National Working Committee of the party, you know, leaders of the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House are all saying he's our man. It's no other person. But is it the coalition? Are you blaming the coalition in this case? And then how do you, I mean, what constitutes a campaign?
We didn't just arrive here. We've seen endorsements. We've seen, you know, political parties, these actors play this, you know, this script has been played in time past. You know, in terms of endorsement, there is no vacancy. It's the, you know,
it's a done deal.
It's a done deal and all of that. But like I said, campaigns will start when the National Electoral Commission and the Electoral Act says issued, which is 150, and it is the party and the candidate. So, in
this case, for example, we're talking about the APC President Bola Tinubu. He really hasn't come out to say he's contesting.
No, that is what I'm saying.
So what? Help us understand exactly what, you know, campaigns are. What are the elements of the campaign? Where does it start from? Yeah, we know 150 days before the election, but what are the features?
So you put your manifesto. The candidate brings the manifesto of the party. For one who is seeking re-election, he should then be talking about what he has done. He should be presenting a scorecard. For those who want to unseat the incumbent, they should be saying what they will do differently. Sectorially, for instance. You could say in education, this hasn't happened, we're going to do this, and we want you to vote for our party. Once you start making that call to vote for our party, whether you are incumbent or opposition, campaigns have started.
But in that summit, we actually heard President Tinubu say on the tax reforms, we have done this. In the area of removing corruption and arbitrage from, with the subsidy and all of that, we have done that. More or less giving some kind of scorecard.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying is a tricky situation.
It is.
They organized a summit. If they had a summit is a place where you take stock and review. So he wouldn't go to the summit and keep quiet and say, I'm not going to say.
Okay.
So you're dealing with a very tricky line in terms of what would constitute. But I'm going to say that it is better that we see a situation in which people understand that they have a tenure.
Okay.
And within that tenure, they have responsibility to the citizens of the country to govern.
Right.
But while they are governing, people cannot also be organizing to unseat them, and you say, oh,
yeah, you made that point that it's across board, and I like that. So I wanted to ask you first, how unusual is this for us? Because I know you've been in the democratic space and electoral space for a while. How unusual is this scenario that we're witnessing at this time to see coordinated endorsements barely days into the midterm, just as the midterm, 2 years into the first 4 years? And what message do you think this is passing to the electorate? Since you say it's across board, do you think that these individuals are even thinking about Nigerians who are supposed to cast the ballot eventually?
Have they ever, whether it is the incumbent, there is this term that for the politicians, elections begins immediately.
He assumes wins
the election. Of the next election.
They start thinking of the next election.
Yeah. While leaders think of the next generation.
The ones who want to unseat them start even immediately to start planning. So, but if you followed the narrative, if you follow the conversations that's been going on, it's about power. Whichever way you listen to, you are not hearing everybody saying, we want to come together to take power.
Yeah.
This other one is saying, we've endorsed you, you are doing well. The decision is for the Nigerian people. We are the markers of this examination. We are the ones who will say, you have done well. So you can go on the roller coaster ride of, look, we have done well in security, in this and this. We are listening, we are hearing you. And then the ones who are doing coalition, we want to know what new things. Who are the new kids on the block? Is there any new thing that we are bringing? Is that a transition? Because we have seen transition from position to opposition, opposition to position. That's what we have seen between 2015 to date. It's been movement from one defection, from one party to
Some would
other.
even say it amounts to nothing but changing of clothes. If you wear agbada today and then tomorrow,
so the Nigerian people should then ask
does the politician
the Nigerian person.
There's a second leg to that question. The Nigerian land on that point. The Nigerian people should do what?
That's what I'm saying, that the politicians can do what they like, but we must not allow them to set agenda.
All right. The other leg to my question was, how unusual is this? Is this something we've been seeing in the past?
But that's what I'm saying, that we didn't just arrive here.
Second year in office of a president?
I think that they even have, these ones have restrained themselves a bit. What we have seen is that immediately they take over, then you start hearing things like 7-point agenda. What's the other one? So there is a sloganeering. They mantranize governance, and in doing that, it just tells you about the fact that it is not just about how the people themselves respond to the things that they are doing. For me, is a big challenge for Nigeria to open up and unpack this whole drama that is going on now across the political divide. The Nigerian people are not at the center of it.
Absolutely. And it raises the question as to, really, when we say the Nigerian voter will decide the fate of the politician eventually, does his vote really count? In the Nigerian context, do the votes of the electorate really count? Is it their ballot that is counted at the end of the day? That is number one. These endorsements, how much weight really do they carry, especially when you have governors of the same party? Hold on, you have governors of the governing party endorsing, NWC endorsing. You also have governors of the opposition party also endorsing. How much weight do these endorsements carry?
President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, lost election in the states where he had governors. governors of APC in 2023, in Kaduna, in Kano, in most of the northwest states. He won only through majority votes and spread. He lost northeast, and most of those states were APC states. So these things. So when you say if it's not for majority vote and spread, that we are running the current thing that we are running now, the governor, the vice presidential candidate of the PDP in Delta State lost Delta State to Labour Party.
Right.
In the same 2023 election. If the votes of the people we are not counting, how did that happen? Today you have majority, you have opposition, 149 or so members of the opposition in the National Assembly. And so if the 2023 election didn't produce the most diversified National Assembly that you can think about, it's not our fault that they are not living up to their bidding as opposition. But that election provided that opportunity. And then why do people buy votes? The politicians are no longer talking to the electoral officials. They are taking their money to the polling units and they are calculating and buying up the voters
and selling
and say, look, if the voters don't matter, if the votes don't count, why should I give you money?
So Nigerians need to know that their votes actually matter.
It does matter.
All right. Thank you so much. A good place to leave the conversation. Executive Director of Pairing Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, Nwagwu.